This chapter is about making wooden I-beams and why that is important. Oops. So we do build bigger furniture with the I-beams, and so this particular one is the smaller paint stir stick that creates the bottom, and this is the top. We have some other versions going on and other styles, like this one over here. That's a T-beam. We have L-beams. So that's what this chapter is going to be about. And I wanted to cover something we did a while back, and that is the sanding discs. And so the sanding discs, they don't have to be flat. You can make them round, curved, whatever shapes that you find. Sorry, didn't prep this up. But this one, really coarse sandpaper. This would cut a curve, really smooth things off. Down here we have an example of a table and the sanding stick. This sandpaper is actually the kind of step grip. You would peel the back and put it down on like a deck step so you wouldn't slip. That's what this is. And I just wanted to show you. So do you see those burrs right here? If you start sanding like this, flat, those pieces of this end have a tendency to burr off. But what you want to do before you start sanding is take a little bit of sanding to take this off. That way it won't burr out. If you go like this, it won't happen because the force is taking all those burrs that would break off this way. But when you sand this way, it might burr out. If I could say burr out. So we use different types of sandpaper to make that happen. So like I said, the I-beam is real critical for some of the structures we make. And also we bend around the I-beam, both the small one and the large one. So we make the I-beam and we bend the paint sticks around the I-beam as well. So the first thing you're going to do is throw these things aside. First thing you're going to do is you're going to need 3 paint sticks. And this would be true for the large one or the small one. You're going to need some rubber bands. Actually, I'm going to peel this off. That didn't work very well. So do you see how I rubber band those pieces together? So let me get this going. So you can put a bead of glue, nice and smooth, across the stick. And then just, you can measure if you wanted to. I kind of just eyeball the center. And just give it a little pressure for right now. And then you could use clamps, but I like to use the rubber bands. They're a little bit more user-friendly. After it sets up a while, you could then maybe use the clamps. But as soon as you put so much pressure on there with the clamps, they have a tendency to buckle. So you kind of eyeball that. That looks pretty good. And if you notice see how it's leaning this way? What you can do is you can adjust the stress on the center part of the I-beam and adjust the rubber band so that it is at right angle. So the first step is to glue, put the rubber bands on, and just let that set aside. If you have to try to do all three at the same time, it's a real nuisance, and it doesn't really turn out that well. So once you get that one glued up, bring your next bead of glue in there. And it might bubble up like that a little bit, but just use your finger, spread it out, and wipe it out under the table. And then once again, just kind of eyeball its center. Which that didn't work very well. But you can adjust it. So now that you have this part, you can it's easier to do the clamps with 3 because there's a stable base at the top, at the bottom. If you try to do the clamp with 2, if you try to do the clamp with 2, it has a tendency to want to buckle, and that's a problem. The large I-beam is done the same way. 3 sticks. So we glue it up. And once again, these I-beams are used for not only molding the wood, but it's also for building with the furniture. Soften that up a little bit so it's spread out. Then you can eyeball it or measure it, whichever you prefer. And just let it hold there. Let the glue kind of get used to where it is and kind of do what it's supposed to do before you start. Don't just put it down and start playing with it, like putting the rubber bands on. Let it just sit there and hold for a few minutes. So then you can put your rubber bands on. I need a brake system on this turntable. So it's not quite centered and it looks a little bit off. See how it kind of leans, and you can adjust the rubber band to correct for that. And then if you can, just give yourself maybe some paper towel and some water to clean up any extra glue. Once that is done, then follow the same procedure we did on the small stick. Once this is dry, take the rubber bands off and run your bead of glue on there. and put that down. And if you have big manhandle type clamps, I like to clamp the end and then switch your clamps back and forth different directions, or use the rubber bands. So switching it back and forth gives equal pressure on one side and the other side of the I-beam, so it doesn't pull to one side. And these things here, here's some bending jigs that we made with the I-beams to bend the wood. So here's a paint stick that's bent, and you see there's a little bit of breaking there. And what we do with that, this is like the next chapter we're going around, but this is where we're heading. So it does snap, crackle, and pop there, and we just fill that with a toothpick and then cut it off, glue it up, and that broke a little bit, which is fine, because this isn't going to be the only part that this is connected to. It's probably going to be connected to something else that once it's connected to something else, it's stronger. Here is another bending jig we made out of the I-beam. We produced a little knee brace. We put measurements on there, a ruler, so we know that if we're going to, go to 3 inches or 2 inches every time, we can accomplish that.